And I am back with another one. I have a special guest that's going to be doing a show with me today. You can go in and introduce yourself to the show.
This Big Hen from the 313. What up, though?
What up, though, Big Ken? What up, though? I want to welcome you back to the show. We're going to be talking about Gervonte Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. And we also going to talk a little bit about your boy Crawford getting ready to fight Canelo. But we're going to start it off with this, Gervonte Tank Davis versus your boy Jake Paul. It has been announced, and first and foremost, before we get off into the fight, Big Ken, what do you think about the whole Lamont Roach fight being let go, just being dismissed? You know what I mean? So give us your thoughts on that. Because a lot of people think that Tank dodged Lamont Roach. It's been a lot of controversy out there about the fight that Tank dodged the fight, but give them your inputs and give them your thoughts on, why that fight didn't go down, why that fight didn't happen before this Jake Paul fight.
Okay, I feel that the first fight, they didn't feel like Lamont Roach had a chance to win it. It was an upset. He basically won the fight. Gervonte Tank Davis had already had in his mind that he was gonna win the fight between him and and your boy. He just fought, and he messed himself up for the simple fact that he should have gave the boy a rematch and he didn't. So now he looking like he ducking. That's what he looking like. He ducking right now.
Okay. Now, a lot of people may say it looked like he may be ducking, but when you got a $40 million fight on the table, that changes a lot of shit. You see what I'm saying? Because he probably was only going to get anywhere from 3 to 5, maybe anywhere from 5 to maybe 10 million for fighting for this rematch. You know what I mean? So you can't knock Tank um for picking up this fight. But the whole thing is, the people did want to see this rematch. I felt like, we were robbed of that. There's a chance that we may not even see this fight again. It was a good fight. People wanted to see, the outcome of who actually will win this fight. It was a draw. But my next question is, do you think 40 million would make anybody, have second thoughts on fight, on that fight?
40 million is a lot of money to turn down. I just feel like the world seeing him get beat by Lamont Roach, and Lamont Roach deserved his get back so he can prove the world that it wasn't a fluke. I believe that Tank know that, and he taking the 40 million, which anybody would take it. But I feel like you should go ahead and get Lamont Roach out the way, then come see Jake after that. It's it ain't too late for him to take the other route.
Yeah, I agree with you, but when you look at on the money aspect, you got 40 million on the line. You've already fought Lamont Roach, which was in a draw. You did that
That's the
already.
problem.
So you don't want to do anything to jeopardize this 40 million. Now, if Jake Paul wouldn't have not put that 40 million on the table, we probably would still be seeing this Lamont Roach Gervonte Davis fight. But me personally, I definitely wanted to see the fight. I think it's something that the fight fans wanted to see. I think Lamont Roach probably was robbed of getting, I'm gonna say I'm not gonna even say it's revenge because it was a draw. But he probably was robbed at a second chance on, being able to be great. But there's other
That's right.
avenues that he's getting ready to take. What do you think with him? Because there has been talks that he's moving on to fighting your boy Shakur Stevenson. What do you think about that?
I mean, that'd be a good fight. I'm kind of stuck on him and Tank Davis right now. But if he was to fight Shakur Stevenson, I think that would be the next best fight for him. Yeah, but I just want to touch on this subject right here. I want to say Tank taking this fight with Jake Paul is really a circus show. I remember when he fought Mario Barrios and he cried that 140 was too big for him, and he went back down to 135. So for you to fight a man that just fought Mike Tyson at 220 pounds, and you want the world to believe that this should be some entertaining, it's a circus show. I'm probably not even gonna watch it. I mean, I'm saying it. I might watch it if I could catch
Oh,
it
we
streaming.
all gonna watch it. We all say that
Um,
we're not gonna watch it,
it's a
but
big
at the end
disappointment.
of the day, I think we're all gonna tune in. But you got to realize this, Big Hen. $40 million will change the mindset, of a lot of people. This exhibition shit, maybe the next best thing, besides the sheiks getting involved, in boxing for fighters to be able to get the money that they
But
have
why?
not
But
been
why?
able to,
But why?
you know,
Why he not? Why not
but
revisit that
let me
after?
say this though first. You've been having the promoters have been dominating for over decades. Making all the money. I think it's been a change. In regards of how fighters look at and how they approach fighting now. I don't think it's more of a record thing. I think it's more of trying to, set their legacy financially. You know what I mean? So fighters tend to me, in my opinion, look more forward to fighting fights that makes more sense financially than trying to set a legacy in boxing. And that's what Gervonte Davis is doing. He's already said that he really wanted to retire, and he has not really even fought really the last 2 3 years. None of the greats that a lot of people wanted him to fight.
And see, that's what I'm mad about, and I believe the whole boxing community should be upset about. You claim to be, the best in your division, but why you not fighting the best? It's about three people that you need to fight before you retire. And if you don't, that's something that you're gonna have to live with. Floyd ain't go out like that. He fought everybody he wanted to fight before he retired. And that's why I believe that Tank ain't who people say he is or think he is. I'm a Tank fan, but if you don't take these fights and you go off and fight Jake Paul, I understand that Jake Paul money. But go ahead and handle your business with Lamont Roach, and then go back and revisit Jake Paul, so people still have the respect for you that they do in the box community. Because I believe once you fight Jake Paul, and he probably gonna say "F me" and everybody that's agreeing with me about how we feel, but it's an old saying that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, and that's basically what he's doing.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Big Hen, but that can work in both ways. If you don't stand for getting your money, while you can get it, and don't allow the promoters, and the producers who's been making all the money over the last 40 years. I
But
think like I said,
that's not a
I,
PBC
I
promotion.
yeah,
That's a Jake Paul and Netflix promotion.
right, right. I agree. But I think it has been a changing of the guards. For a lot of the successful, boxers like Mike Tyson. Even Roy Jones is getting ready to do something like that with Floyd Mayweather. So I'm
Well, I
not going
mean,
to
you
get
know,
mad
when
at him.
you
Of course, we wanted to see that Lamont Roach fight. I wanted to see it. I had money on that. But I understand what Tank is about. Tank is about trying to maximize all of his last fights that he have in him. He's trying to maximize out on the pay amount. I don't think he give a
but
fuck about.
Jake Paul ain't going nowhere.
I mean, I'm gonna say yes and no because this Jake Paul train is only going to go so long now, especially after that last
So
showdown with Mike
listen. So
Tyson.
this my question to you. Gervonte Tank Davis is arguably the face of boxing. So if Jake Paul beats him, does that make him the face of boxing?
No, because as we know, this is not a sanctioned fight. It's going to be an exhibition. So whether
And that's only
Um,
because they tried to make it a sanctioned fight, but they want Jake Paul to come down to 175 pounds,
and
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 we
that
know
and that won't and that won't happen because
Jake
that means
Paul ain't
Tank.
making
Yeah,
175
that
pounds.
that right. That's not going to happen because that means Tank will have to move up to 175, and that's probably not going to happen. So you gotta what's going on now, man? Is Jake Paul has changed the
But it's an exhibition, so if it's an exhibition, we can entertain that after I fight these real boxers.
well, yeah, it's an exhibition, so really, they can fight at the weight that they at. Tank will probably have some agreements of what weight that he want Jake to come down to. But at the end of the day,
But
there's
but he
no
made but he made Ryan
real true sanction.
he made Ryan what's the word I'm looking for? He
Yeah,
made Ryan,
it was a dehydration clause, but
yeah, the dehydration clause.
that was a sanctioned fight. This is just an exhibition.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Why? To me, it's a joke. I know I might be taking it a certain kind of way, but it's really just a joke. It don't mean nothing. You're not fighting nobody in your weight division. If people just want to see your show, then we go to the WWF for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's all it is. Big Hen, it's show business. Jake Paul is in the show business. He's in the business of, he has a big following. And he's in the business of exploiting boxers to be able to get in there to generate this money that they're been getting. Because imagine if he's giving Tank 40 million, imagine the money that they're going to be able to generate through this pay-per-view. So it's a money thing, so it's a good thing. I'm not mad at Tank. Yes, I do want to see that Lamont Roach fight, but you got to look at it like this. Tank looking at it like this. Lamont Roach had his time. He had his chance. He didn't come, he was unvictorious. He got a draw, so he did his thing, but Tank moving on. Maybe after this Jake Paul fight, he'll come back to Lamont Roach, but at the end of the day, man,
But to me, once he visit this Jake Paul fight, his credibility is shot because I mean, to be honest with you, who ain't expecting Jake Paul to knock Tank Davis the fuck out? I'm sorry, excuse my French, but that's what I'm expecting.
see, I'm going with Tank.
Come on, bro.
So you going with Jake Paul? Tell me why you going with Jake Paul.
I ain't going with neither one of them because I really don't want to see the fight because it's a circus show. But I just feel like Jake Paul ain't no scrub like that either, and I just don't see Tank going in there dropping Jake Paul. I don't see that.
Nah, man, I'm not gonna say he's a scrub, but he is not. He's not. He's an entertainer, is what he is. He's not a boxer. Um, yes, he's learned the sport of the game, and he learned quick. But it's a difference when you have a professional fighter, in there with a motherfucker who's just really entertaining. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's definitely an athlete, but he's more
Jake Paul is sanctioned as a professional boxer now.
okay. So when is he gonna have a regulated sanctioned fight then?
Him and Mike Tyson was regular sanctioned fight.
Man, that was not no regulated fight. That was a motherfucking exhibition, bro.
Well, that
That
went
shit was
on Mike Tyson's record.
no, it did not. That was
I beg to differ, bro. It's just like if you don't believe
was right on time
his
for him.
bro Floyd and his brother fight, that was Floyd. I mean, not his brother. Floyd and Conor McGregor was his 50th win, and he with the UFC. So all you see what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're trying to say, but Jake Paul is not sanctioned by the boxing federation. I don't think he's. I don't
Yes, he
think he.
is. Yes,
Okay,
he is.
so who did he? So who was his first professional fight at what division? Because it wasn't Mike Tyson.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that, but I know
Yeah.
he a professional boxer now.
Nah,
He's
I think
not just a YouTuber
he's
no
a
more.
professional. He's a professional exhibition boxer. Is what he is.
I'm trying to tell you, bro. I believe that fight with him and Mike Tyson went on Mike Tyson's record. That's why everybody was tripping on that.
Nah, I'm gonna look it up, but I mean, you
I
could
wish
be
you could
right.
look it up right now.
I can. I'm gonna look it up. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to look it up, and I'm looking it up now as we speak.
So
But yeah, man, but to continue on with the boxing talk, man, we got Canelo and Crawford getting ready to come up on September the 13th. Give me your decision, give me your opinion on what you think is getting ready to be a great what is it? They're fighting at is it light heavyweight? No, not light heavyweight, but cruiserweight.
168.
Okay, so 168, that would be super middleweight, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's like super middleweight, close to
Yeah, so
like
give me your
like
opinion.
heavyweight.
You got your boy Crawford coming up two weight divisions to fight your boy Canelo, the great Canelo Alvarez. So give me your thoughts, man. I know you're a Bud Crawford fan. I know you going with your boy, but he's getting ready to face a well polished um Canelo Alvarez. So how will he be able to handle the onslaught? Because Canelo is going to come out there and try to bring it to him in those first upcoming rounds.
They scared, bro. They scared. Canelo don't want to got boots. He don't want to got somebody with a similar style to Crawford style to try to, combat what he finna bring to the table. But this is what I'm finna say, and everybody understand what I'm finna say. It's only one Bud Crawford, so you can't go get nobody to mimic what he finna bring to the table. You could try to come
Right.
close to it, but I think that everybody finna. It's about to be a major upset. A major upset. I think that Bud finna bring all his skills to the table. He ain't finna be going out like the Charlo just for a paycheck. This is for
Oh
legacy.
man.
I believe that with everything I love wholeheartedly. I got Bud.
Yeah.
I got Bud winning all day long.
Yeah, that Charlo shit will not happen this fight. That was I can't believe Charlo went out like that. But not to take nothing away from Bud, but no, it's definitely going to be a different fight. There's not going to be any running. It's going to be a great fight. Like I said, in the first rounds, I'll say round one through maybe 4 or 5, Canelo is going to come out the aggressor. Bud is going to be the counter fighter, so that's going to make it for a great fight, to be able to see Bud come out there and try to counter the onslaught of Canelo. So my question to you, Big Hen, what do you think the effects will be on Bud coming up two weight divisions? Do you think he'll be able to keep the power? Do you think he'll lose his power, or do you think he'll be able to gain power and bring his power with him up to two weight divisions?
On that right there, I don't know how that's gonna work, but I just think Bud gonna be Bud. Bud gonna come in ready for this fight. I just think that he's more polished than anybody in the game right now. Canelo is a little slow in his steps right now, and I just feel like that Bud, with his craftiness and his switch hitting, is going to be a little bit too much for Canelo in them pockets. And I'm calling it right now. I'm thinking Bud gonna catch him with something nice. You might see Canelo get stopped.
Okay, now I want to say this though. A lot of people think that Canelo best may be behind him, but most fighters fight to the competition that they're fighting. You know what I mean?
Fact,
Canelo last
fact.
few fights may have not looked like the Canelo of the past, but he's getting ready to be in there with another champion. So this is going to bring the best out of Canelo. So I don't think we'll see the old Canelo. I don't think we'll see the last fight that he fought. I think we'll see the old Canelo who's more active, who's throwing more punches. Because that last fight that he fought, I'm not going to say he was not active, but he did not put the pressure on the last opponent that he fought. I think he'll be able to put a lot more pressure on Bud. It's going to make for a great fight and it's going to make for a stoppage, which I'm going for Bud.
Yeah, all day long.
So
Go ahead.
Yep. So we got a few people watching. I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I would love to see your opinion. Tell me who you're picking in this fight. Do you think Bud will be able to, withhold the onslaught, in the power after moving up two weight divisions? So yeah, Big Ken, like I said, my thoughts on this fight. I think Bud will be able to bring his power up with him. I don't think moving up two weight divisions will be able to affect him power wise. I think he'll be a lot more quicker than Canelo will be. And then I think he'll surprise Canelo with the quickness and with the power. You know what I mean? So I think, Canelo will get in there and mix it up with him, until he feels that power. Because if he's a smart fighter and if he studies Bud, he will not. Bud wins a lot of his fights counter fighting. So if he
I
feels
said
that pressure, I think Canelo has the skill to also be a counter fighter himself, and I think he'll allow Bud to attack, and he'll do a lot of the counter fighter late in the rounds. Because I think he'll be able to put enough pressure on Bud in the early rounds to the point where he can lax off and just counter fight, and be the Canelo that we know in defensive, and just win off of points and go out there and put on a defensive show and offensive show. So it's going to be a good fight, Big Hen. So, give me your thoughts, give me your opinion, on what you think Canelo is going to bring to the table, and give me your thoughts on how do you think Bud will be able to handle, what Canelo will bring to the table.
well, when you got two vets like Canelo and Crawford, I don't think they can change nothing about their style. They both can go and get whoever they want to be in their training camp and all of that. It's like the saying go, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. What they come to bring to the party is what they come to bring to the motherfucking party. You know what I'm
Facts.
saying? So Bud coming with what he coming with, Canelo coming what he coming with. I just think at the end of the day, somebody got to win the fight. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going with my man Bud. I just think that he gonna bring that bag of tricks with him, and Canelo gonna be Canelo, and I think he coming straight forward, and that ain't gonna be enough to win. It's not. We
No,
just
and
seen
I
what he did against William Skull. I'm not. I hate to bring up last fights, but we seen what he did against William Skull, and he couldn't keep up. Bud is not
yeah,
going. Bud not going to fight that fight, but he going to fight him in the pocket, and like I said, he might stop him in the
no, you
pocket.
hit you hit it right on the nose because Score thought that he was going to be able to use his size advantage and connect. It's probably going to be somewhat like the same fight that we'll see in the Score fight, with Canelo. Because Canelo is probably going to be, well, not probably, he's going to be the bigger of the two, so he's going to try to be more aggressive, in the early rounds until Bud shows him otherwise that he can't be.
Right. I mean, Canelo whole thing is this is what everybody keep on saying. He too small, Bud too small. He gonna walk him down. Well, Bud proved to the world in the press conference when he walked Canelo down, and Canelo looked at him like, "Damn, this motherfucker is strong." You see what I'm saying? So right there, he already showed him, "I'm gonna bully you in this fight." Just like
Yeah,
Earl told, what the Earl
and, and,
tell
and,
Earl Spence? He
and
say
I
it's gonna be a one sided ass whooping, and it ended up being the opposite. It ended up being his ass was being one sided ass whooping. So
Yeah,
we
no,
gonna
I
see.
agree, and I agree with you 100%. You know, he'll do he'll it'll probably be the same thing. You know, the mindset that Earl Spence had coming in there. You know,
Exactly,
he
exactly.
probably thought he was going to dominate. You know, because of his size and strength. You
Yep,
know, but you know, and it showed me because I was an Earl Spence fan. You know,
right.
still am. You know, and I
Yep.
still want to see that fight. You know, but I think it'll be kind of more like that fight. You know, Canelo will come out. More the aggressive. Crawford will be the counter fighter and land a lot of shots. You know, it may be. I'm picking Canelo. I'm picking Bud to stop him. You know, maybe in the later rounds. You know, because
Yeah,
he's going to be too overly aggressive.
like I said, bro, he gonna come with the. You hit the nail on the head, bro. He gonna come with the same thing Earl came with, straight ahead. You can't teach a dog new tricks. Terrence Crawford is used to people coming to him like that. He don't do nothing but get in the cat position and get you. You know
Yeah,
what the
no,
cat
hey,
position is. You get somebody in the corner, that cat coming out.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And Bud
listen,
he
hey,
wanted the slickest
look.
cats in the game.
I I gained a lot of respect. Like I said, I've gained a lot of respect for Crawford over the last few years. You know, after he beat my guy, it made me a believer. You know, and I think it'll be a great fight. You know, and I'll just be honest, this fight can go either way.
Yeah,
It is. Canelo, he definitely still has a lot in him. You know, even though he has more fights behind him than he do in front of him, but he still has that power. He still can bring it to you, so it's going to be a good fight. This fight is going to be in Vegas, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay. See, and that's one thing I like about the Sheiks, man. They've been bringing these fights that we probably would never have gotten, together. They've been, these guys are able to get in there and make their money. Bud's been making a nice little, change these last little few fights, man. So one thing I can say I will commend them. They put together, maybe the fight of the year. You know what I mean? A lot of people never thought this fight probably wouldn't happen, but it's getting ready to happen in a couple of weeks, man. It's going to be a good fight. Who do they have? Who does Vegas have right now winning this fight?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably real close right about now because you had a lot of people that was going with Canelo and don't changed up. So I don't know.
Yeah,
That's a good one. You know what I'm saying? But I'm
yeah.
gonna tell you I'm gonna tell you how I think Bud feel. You know, uh, they tried to bury him, but you can't bury what comes from the dirt.
Right. Why you say they tried to bury it?
I mean, everybody talk about his record. He ain't fought nobody. He ain't fought nobody. But like Bud said, everybody say, I ain't fought nobody until they the next person on the resume, and then
Hey
you
man,
the next person on the
they
resume
can't
that
say
I ain't.
that. Bud is a 4-time champion in 4 different weight divisions. So
Right.
his credentials speak, alone for what he's done.
But you got these naysayers out here that say the people that he fought. What you got to understand about Bud is he fought
Hey,
who he could fight.
the naysayers probably ain't fought nobody.
Right. Exactly.
Hey,
Even
Bud got
even
the respect.
Canelo said something about
He
his
got the
resume.
respect of his peers.
Period. Bud fought who would fight him. You got to understand if you can't get nobody to fight you, uh, you gonna fight who comes up to take that challenge, and that's what
Yes,
he did.
and that's what I respect about Bud.
Yep.
He has that same mindset of let me see, it'll come to me in a second, but he has not so far from what I saw from him. And I was just watching, like they were just showing all his fights up until this Canelo fight. He has not dodged one person that they put in front of him. You know what I mean? So he's been to me. Um, Right now, he's the top pound for pound fighter out there. Tank was on the top of my list, but he has not been as active, as he has been within the last 2, 3 years. And and it's a few fights to me that I think he has been dodging. But Crawford, he has not dodged one fight. He's been out there proving to many, like you say, the naysayers. He's proven all the naysayers wrong. He's even proven me wrong. I've lost money to you, on a Spence fight. So like I said, he made me a believer, and I don't think nothing will change with this fight. I think he'll be able to bring that power, and I think he'll be able to stop Canelo in the later rounds because of the onslaught. Canelo is going to try to bring on him. He's going to punish him and make him pay with that counter fight, with those counter shots, I should say.
I feel like, I'm gonna say what we said again. I feel like Canelo is gonna bring the same style Earl Spence brung, and once you come with something that Bud see on the inside, he's gonna get countered. What he gonna do when he get countered, I don't know. If it's gonna be a all night counter fest, but I just don't see Canelo uh, being smart enough to deal with Bud finna bring. Like you said, you just you got to bring your A game when you fighting champions like they fighting each other. So it's gonna be. I don't think neither one of them. I don't think the people is right about Canelo, and I don't think the people is right about Bud, and more than one reason. I feel like that people are saying the size is gonna make a difference. I think that when they get in that ring, you're gonna see that Bud probably gonna be a little bit bigger than Canelo, far as the way it looked. The same thing with Earl Spence. They said he bigger, and then when they got in there, Bud looked at like so much bigger and muscular. You see what I'm saying? I believe it's gonna
Yeah, no,
be the
I mean,
same
don't get me
exact thing.
wrong. Spence was bigger than him, but
Not in the
Bud.
fight. Not in the fight. In the fight, he came in there. He was totally. His body was totally more sculpted than Earl. Earl was. You have to admit with agree with that.
No, I can't agree with you on that one, man.
Go look
Earl
at
was
that
was
fight. Go
big.
look at Terrence Crawford's
Yeah.
shoulders and his arms in that fight, bro. Terrence ain't never looked like that. What I'm saying to you is he come prepared for the task at hand.
No, I'm not saying that he don't and he didn't. Because everybody, tell you that. Even the commentators before the fight, that Crawford. I mean that Spence was a lot bigger than, and that's why they even saying with Canelo. Canelo is definitely a bigger fighter.
They
In
felt
weight.
that. They felt that way, but when you go watch
Right.
that fight, Terrence Crawford was bigger than Earl that night.
Right.
Yes, yes, he was. And when we watch this fight with him and Canelo, you're gonna see it's not gonna be a big size difference at all. And I believe that everybody underestimating Terrence's power, and he gonna come in there and put on the show. The same shit
So
he
so
caught
who
Earl
so
with.
who do you think so who do you think is going to be the aggressor then?
I should have bet you. I should have bet you. And I should have kept my bet. I pulled out of that bet with me and you when me and you had that bet, and I said, "Well, we got to bet on who get knocked down." We had about three different bets, and I pulled out on. I said, "I'll take the bet with the win." But I'm gonna tell you like this: I feel the same way that he got the same power that he knocked Earl out with. He can catch Canelo with it, but Canelo just got a chin made of steel. But we thought the same thing with Earl Spence.
Yeah.
We ain't see Earl catch no smoke until Crawford.
Yep. So it's definitely going to be a good fight, man. And starting from here, I'm definitely going to continue, to talk about this fight.
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
definitely going to continue to bring you on, because this is going to be a great fight. I want to continue to be able to add on, and we're just going to definitely bring in more people. I want to bring Q Dog in, talk a little bit more about this fight. But like I said, we have, I believe, what maybe 2 weeks before this fight. It's definitely going to be a good fight, but man. You know, um, you know, um, I think Bud will come out victorious, and this will cement, his legacy. And I'm not gonna say retire, but after that, he'll probably hang it up.
I think if he put on the show that I think he's gonna put on, I don't see no other reason for him to stick around.
Unless Ennis go out there and do his thing and come with a big, payday. But at the end of the day, Crawford, man, he has proven himself. You know, he has nothing to prove. Now he's just trying to finish his career off with that bag. And like I said, even with Tank, man, you can't get mad. And I understand we would love to have see that Lamont Roach fight again. But these fighters of today are chasing that bag. They really don't too much care about the records or these. I'll say the belts. The belts doesn't matter. Everyone wants to try to stay undefeated. Everyone wants to try to model themselves after Floyd. Which is undefeated. But
I mean, to
so
me, I think the only person that's following that theory is Tank.
yeah, it's a
He
few
the
of them
only
out
one.
there
He the only
that
one
see it.
following that theory. Far as the belts don't matter because everybody else think the belts matter.
I mean, yeah, but at
I
the
mean,
end of
you
the day,
name somebody else that got the same mindset as him. Far as the belts don't matter.
I'm gonna say Crawford. He out there. I'm not gonna say he don't say the belts matter, but right now at this point in his career, the money matters more to him than the belts.
I mean, but this is for legacy. So, you know, if he beat Canelo, it's about the belts and the legacy.
Okay, well, I mean,
It's
we can,
titles on the line. It ain't just it's titles on the line.
right? And I agree with you on that. He's definitely fighting for his legacy too. But at the end of the day, I look at it like the fighters of today. It's more about the money versus the competition, fighting amongst each other. Because if it was, we probably would have been saw Shakur and Tank fight. We probably would have been saw Ennis and you know,
Well, you
Spence
gotta
or
you
Anderson
gotta you
or
gotta
Anderson or
think about
Crawford.
it. The only one out of the bunch that ain't fought everybody is Tank. Everybody else don't fought other than Tiafimo and him and Shakur is set up to fight each other now. So out of the bunch, Tank is only fought Ryan. That's the only person on his resume that I'm gonna give him credit for. Everybody else was cherry picks from Floyd. I'm just gonna be real with you, Tank. And I do like Tank, but if you're gonna sit up here and critique resumes, the only person he got on his resume is Ryan.
Well, I mean, you can't fault him for that, because he beat everyone that they put in front of him thus far. So but I
He
understand what you're
ducked.
talking
They
about.
ducked Lomachenko. They ducked everybody they had to duck on the way up to make the name that they made. That Floyd did. It was business moves. I understand that, but to me, back to business. Like the whole Lamont Roach thing. Him ducking Lamont Roach. You started off as a professional boxer as a child prodigy, and now to me, you know what I'm saying. If you gonna do the Jake Paul, do that after you finish, bro. I know you feel it's too many money fights and too many fights that you can fight, but I think he taking a cop out by saying he don't have the love for the sport. Why you don't have the love for the sport and you've been on top for the last umpteen years, bro? You got to make it make sense to me.
Yeah, see, and he making it make sense. That 40 million makes a lot of sense, because I don't think he made 40 million a fight yet, as a professional. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we
Jake
did want to see.
Paul even said after he do the Lamont rematch, then we gonna go back to that. This is all Tank, being hungry for that money grab. I'm cool with that. 40 million is not easy to come by, and he could walk in the sunset after this fight if
Yeah,
that's what he want to do.
and really, man, and really, that's what it's about. At the end of the day, it's about securing, yourself financially. Being
But what
able
about
to
the
get.
fans? What about the fans?
No, I agree.
So I can't
look,
agree with.
every now and then you have to get them what they want. And I'm quite sure he's giving them at least one or two fights out of his career. But you got to look at it like this, man. Most fighters, that we grew up watching, some of my favorite fighters, man. A lot of them are broken. speech padded. It's not all what it used to be. Financially, a lot of them are broken. So a lot of these fighters of today, learn from the fighters of old. And they try to get in, and get the money and get out without trying to do too much damage physically, to their bodies. You know what I mean? Because one of my favorite fighters of all time, love him. Our uncle trained him and coached him, James Tony. I listened to a lot of his interviews, and sometimes I almost can't understand some of the stuff. And I want to give a shout out to James Tony, the best fighter that done it out there, in my opinion. You know what I mean? But yeah, and
Facts.
I just use him as an example, of what fighters of today, try to avoid, man. They try to go out there and take less damage, and try to get more money, a fight as they can, because the days of watching warriors, and motherfuckers like James fighting everybody, those days are over with, man. These fighters, they're hand picking their opponents. And that's just what, like you said, it's all business, business calls, man. That's what it's about,
Mm.
because we've just been seeing that, the last, few years with certain fighters. It's just business decisions. These fighters are not. That's why it took so long for Crawford, and Spence to fight. Because they both were. I'm not going to say they both, but a lot of their fights were handpicked, and a lot of their fights were scheduled, for them to be able to come out with W's, to be able to get them to where they're at now.
See, a lot of that was because they didn't control it. Tank Davis don't have no. He control his destiny. He don't have Floyd behind him. It's like Terrence Crawford when he had Bob Arum. People was controlling their destiny. Terrence Crawford control his own destiny now. So with Tank Davis, I just feel like yeah, go get the bread. I understand that, but
Yeah.
I feel like again, take care of the business, the real business first. That money with Jake Paul. Jake ain't going nowhere. Jake is in the circus business.
See, but back again to what we were saying though, bro. The real business is that purse. They fight for a purse, for that money. And at the end of the day, the business is to go in there to get as much as money as you can for a fight without actually, getting hurt. And this is an exhibition. They're really not going to be in there fighting. You saw what happened with that Mike Tyson fight. That was the easiest 20 million he got.
Yeah, I agree with you because that definitely was an exhibition. To me, it was anyway.
Yeah, that's all it was, and that's all this fight will be, because there's no way that Tank is coming up to 200 and some pounds, and there's no way that Jake is going to make it down to, 100 and what, 35, 42 pounds is what Tank division is what he's fighting in, so this is all an exhibition, man, so, I don't
It,
get
it'd have
upset.
made it'd have made more sense for him to fight. They said he called out Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua turned him down. See, everybody don't want to be a part of the circus, bro, and that's what it is.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, everybody do want that bag. I guarantee you, Anthony Joshua is gonna
Anthony Joshua turned it
he
down.
gonna he gonna kick himself in the ass, for that picking it up.
You know,
I mean, because you got to think about it, man. At the end of the day, fighters are in there fighting for a purse. We all say, and I'm not saying that
okay,
they
I'm
don't
gonna
fight.
give you a for instance. Canelo had a chance to fight Jake Paul before Tank. He turned it down because she came to him like, you a real fighter. What you? Why you fighting Canelo? Let's get this money and fight a real fight. Visit that later. That's what I'm trying to tell
Yeah,
you. That
well, I
that
mean, see, you got to think about it. She came at him with,
that
still
bread.
with great numbers and money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you know,
but
and
he made it make sense though. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
right,
you can get that money with Jake Paul, but come fight Crawford, a real fight, and then revisit that clown show. Because
right.
we
No,
already
I
know
agree,
Canelo,
man. You know,
Canelo,
I think the Jake Paul shit should be for fighters who retired. You know,
yeah,
like Mike Tyson and you know
yeah,
other entertainers. You know, don't
yeah.
I don't think current fighters should be able to be fighting in exhibition fights. You know, but I don't. You know, don't stop them from making that bread.
Okay, this is my last point I'm gonna make. Tank going there and he fight Jake Paul, and Jake Paul drops him. He's done, man. Ain't nobody gonna want to fight watch Tank no more. Even though you just made 40 million, you're gonna be the laughing stock of the industry because you
Yeah,
went in
see
and got slept by
see
Jake Paul.
that's why that'll never happen. You know,
Would have never happened.
that he'll drop him. You know, he won't drop him. It'll always be they'll go to some type of decision. You know, and it won't go on their record regardless. You know what I mean? But I don't think Tank. I don't think he'll allow him to drop him, or it'll be a win by Jake Paul. You know, because like I said, Tank is still an active fighter. You know, and it will damage his career if any of those happen.
You know what? I'm gonna lose respect for Jake Paul if he don't drop Tank.
Why? He's not a professional fighter.
You keep on saying that, but he is, bro. He is sanctioned as a professional fighter.
Yeah,
He on
he's sanctioned because he's well, anybody can be a professional fighter, put it that way. If you want to
right.
turn pro,
Conor
anybody can
McGregor
turn
had to
pro.
become a
But
professional
what I mean
boxer to
is
fight Floyd
we
Mayweather.
all know that he's not technically a professional fighter. He's an entertainer, is what he is. You know, and it's a difference. You know, between the entertainment and a motherfucker who actually do this for real. You know, so but yeah, you know, I think it'll be an entertaining fight. You know, I just don't want to see that bullshit ass shit that we saw with that Mike Tyson. You know, you saw him holding back punches. You know, if we see that with this Tank fight, we know then that this is nothing but we already know it's a show business. It's for show. You know, it's just entertainment. But you know, if Jake Paul don't get put on his ass this fight, you know, I don't think he'll be able, or if he don't put Tank on his ass, I don't think he'll be able to get more big fights from fighters like this no more. You know, because won't nobody pay to see this shit. Yeah, so Big Hen, well, it looked like Big Hen froze. So, but yeah, it looked like his phone froze or he might have died out. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, we definitely wanted to see that Lamont Roach fight. You know, hopefully within the next year or two, it may go down. You know what I mean? But you can't blame Tank for going after that money because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. You know, they fight for a purse, they fight for money. You know, most of these fighters of the day, you know, try to not get caught up in the things that the fighters of yesterday got caught up with, not you know letting the promoters, you know, take majority of the pay, you know. So the fighters have, you know, caught up with, you know, that side of, you know, the boxing world, you know. So you know, at the end of the day, it's that's what it's about. You know, it's all about the money. You know, it's definitely about competition. You know, the fighters definitely, you know, give it their all. You know, everyone wants to be a champion. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, it's a job, you know, and people got to respect that and feel that, you know, and that's what Tank doing. You know, that 40 million is going to be able to provide for him and his family, you know, for decades, you know. So, but we definitely want to see that fight, you know. So I need for you guys to give me your opinion, you know, tell me what you think about Tank in this whole Jake Paul fight, and then Tank not taking that the rematch against your boy Lamont Roach, and then also give me your thoughts on the Crawford and Canelo. Tell me who you're picking. Tell me what type of fight that you think is going to be, and tell me what decision who's going to win the fight. You know, it's another one. It's your boy Damn D, and I am out. Peace.